Hello, I'm RJ City, and you are listening to the Monster Cast. You're going to talk about Bela Lugosi. They're going to talk about Lon Chaney Jr. He'd be so sad, holding his hat, saying, "Please put me in this room and don't unlock the door." And you can't do any better than the Dahl brothers. Jack and Ryan, they're brothers, but they're also bros. What? Pardon? Wrestling. Well, who the hell wants to talk about wrestling? These are horror movies. It's a deep genre. It's a smart genre. Fantastic actors. Fantastic cinematography. Wrestling is just sweating and fireworks and bouncy ropes. There's nothing. How can you talk about that every week? All right. Let's see them try. Take it away, you crazy dolls.
Jesus fuck my fucking ass. What the fuck? Please shut up.
No. Master Watto is a
shut
champion.
up.
You're gonna put some
Stop
respect on his
fucking
name
saying
now.
Master Watto on this fucking show.
IWGP Junior Heavyweight Co-Champion.
What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful here. You're watching the Monster Cast with Jack and Ryan. A big shout out to those fellas. Good people. Check them out.
Oh my god, what is this?
It
Who
looks
is
like a
making
TV.
the New Japan titles? They need to stop
It
making
looked like
titles.
a TV, bro. They took it too literally. That's the problem.
They should have just turned it into a TV. I would have been more impressed.
That would have been cooler.
Put some
Make
antennas
it-
on the top.
No, just make it like a digital title. Like you could display whatever you want on the
Oh,
digital.
like an
title.
LCD screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then have
That'd be
the
sick as
picture
fuck.
of the person that's the champ. That'd be so good.
Oh fuck.
That'd be worth it.
Wrestling podcast. How fucking original.
Jake and Brian. Brandon Cutler here from AEW, and I hope you guys have an awesome podcast with the Monster Cast. What was that? Your name is Jack and Ryan? Shut up, Jack and Ryan.
Tell me who you would sign first.
Hiroshi Tanahashi.
No, not overall, genius. Between the two goddamn examples I'm about to give you.
Master Wada.
Killer Cross or Dominic Dijakovic, who are you signing first?
Killer Cross. 100%.
What the fuck?
Absolutely.
Wrong! That
No,
answer is
I would.
wrong.
I would.
Oh
Killer
my god.
You don't know shit! Your opinions suck!
I guess I mean, you're welcome.
Fuck,
See,
I'll boo it.
I don't think I've ever said boo.
I will.
That's so stupid.
I'll do it. Boo! Boo! You can't. Don't actually say the word because that's why it sounds weird. You gotta. It's like more like a note. Boo! You don't fucking actually say boo. Boo! 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 You don't turn it into a fucking chant. You actually have to.
I will. I'm gonna do that at Forbidden Door.
You start a boo chant. Boo! 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 Boo!
Here's your hosts of the Monster Cast, the Straight Edge Monster Jack and Ryan.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 5th Annual Monster Awards. We are the Monster Cast. I'm the Straight Edge Monster Jack. That is Ryan Rockwell. We've got 20 awards for you in the year 2023, our 5th annual. We've been doing this since 2019, and it's going to be a barn burner. Now, what I want to lay out here at the beginning here is the fact that, yes, some of these awards we agree on, okay? And some of them we do not. So we just give them to both. So it's our own pretty much individual monster awards as well simultaneously. Now, if we ever get big enough and make money off this show, which we do not make any money off the show, we just do this for fun right now. If we get big enough to actually buy and send off actual awards, then we will have to come to some sort of agreement on these awards and giving them out, because there's no way we're sending out that many awards. That's ridiculous.
Well, we could always also just do it for like the top 3 or 4 categories.
Yeah, that's
which
true
we tend
too.
To agree on. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I don't want to disagree on like Wrestler of the Year one year when that's like the biggest one either.
Yeah.
We'd have to come up with, maybe we'll just, unless somebody finds it so egregious, we could just do a coin flip. But if it's egregious that we're like, okay, we need to have a conversation about this.
Wrestler of the Year, I feel like we're pretty much always aligned on, except for this year. Every year before that, we agreed on it. So
We're going to get into all this stuff
yeah.
right now. 20 awards. We're going to hit you with the first 10 right now. First up, we have the best indie wrestler in the women's category. Here we go. I gave it to Maki Ito, and Ryan gave it to Steph DeLander. These are pretty much the two no-brainers, honestly, of this award. And I feel like that's the same with the men's that we're going to talk about next. But yeah, like, they've both been everywhere. The only reason I didn't pick Steph DeLander is because she got hurt towards the end of the year and missed a big chunk of time as far as in-ring time. So I gave the nod to Maki Ito instead, but Steph DeLander was clearly right there for me as well. Pretty much neck and neck with Maki Ito the entire year.
She only missed a couple months for that, right? It was like September through November, I think she was out, but it wasn't like 3 or 4 months or anything crazy. It was like 2 months. But yeah, I feel like the problem with this category as time goes on is that indies are harder and harder to find somebody that's just in indies, because so many people will sign to Impact or AEW or whatever and then still wrestle indies, but they're not technically indie anymore. So the pool for this is getting smaller and smaller
unless it's a written contract. Like Heidi Howitzer, for example, would be high up on the list for this category as well for me, but she also wrestled for WoW and she also wrestled for AEW, but like she's not signed to a written contract with AEW. She doesn't have an all elite graphics, so I actually think that helps propel her to be higher on the list than a lot of other people, because she got that exposure on YouTube with AEW Dark and Dark Elevation before they pulled the plug on that. So unless they're like a written contract and it comes out that they've signed, then I count all that as indies.
Yeah, I mean, Slimovich has still done some indie stuff too, and I had her on there, but technically she signed to Impact, so it's like a weird,
Yeah, well, I mean, Impact is not really in the position to have everybody under written contract, so I get what you're saying, but yeah. But yeah, she's more Impact than she is indies, is what you're saying.
Right.
That was
Well,
my point is Maki Ito is not anything more than anything else, really. Like she doesn't even she's like a TJPW wrestler, but she doesn't even show up there more often than she does than the indie stuff that she does. She shows up more in indies than she does TJPW, which is her like home base. So
yeah.
Let's get to best indie wrestler in the men's division. I gave it to Speedball Mike Bailey.
Just fair. I mean,
And Ryan gave it to Matt Cardona, which shouldn't shock anybody since he gave it to Steph DeLander. And that's their whole thing is they're together on the indies, like just ruling the world over there. The indie god, Matt Cardona. I gave it to Matt Cardona last year, and I believe the year before. He would have got a three-peat, I believe, if he would have won it this year from me. But Speedball Mike Bailey, dude, he's been fucking everywhere. Got a 5-star match with Ospreay too. So
yeah, but Cardona beat him in GCW, so he can't be the
he
best.
cheated though. It wasn't straight up. That's why he didn't get that. Because I remember texting you. I was like, "Hey man, whoever wins between Speedball." Actually, I think tweeted it. I tweeted it, and Speedball liked it. I said, "Whoever wins between them is going to get Indie Wrestler of the Year." But then when Matt Cardona cheated to win, it's like, well, no, not necessarily. So I give it to Speedball Mike Bailey. He is your 2023 Monster Award Indie Wrestler of the Year, along with Matt Cardona.
See, here's the funny thing about your picks, though. Did you know that I think it was like early December, Mike Bailey lost to Maki Ito.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that helps my Maki Ito pick. If anything. All right. Moving on to Breakout Wrestler of the Year in the women's category. I gave it to Tiffany Stratton, and Ryan gave it to Mariah May.
Yeah, and this is, I think we talked a little bit about this one too. I picked Mariah May because if you think about when she debuted in Stardom, it was only like at the very end of last year. So you think about her going from that to now being signed with a major company in an angle with the champion of a major company. Like, I feel like that's a pretty big breakout from where she was a year ago. But yeah, I mean, I understand your pick too.
Yeah, my pick was strong at the beginning of the year, but tailed off towards the end. But I think the first half to 8 months of the year far outweighed the last 2-3 months of the year, because our time frame is obviously January 1st to December 31st. So
We do it the way that makes sense.
yeah, we do it the way that makes sense, not the PWI way. Oh my god,
Yep.
terrible.
June
Super hard to keep up.
15th to September 9th.
So I've got Tiffany Stratton and Ryan pick Mariah May. Next up, we've got the breakout of the year for the men's side.
Yeah.
I went LA Knight and Ryan went Swerve Strickland. And I believe that this one is probably, so far out of the ones that we picked, the closest. Like, these two are like, there's no one that's going to beat either one of these two, right? This is 1 and 2 regardless of how you look at it.
Yeah. Looking at where Swerve was a year ago he was still in AEW obviously, and people knew who he was. And he was doing like the Mogul Embassy shit for or just the embassy, then the Mogul stuff, then the weird shit with Trench and whatever the other guy's name was. Like, he was around and people knew who he was, but going from that to where he is now, I feel like is a crazy trajectory. And I see the same thing with LA Knight. Like, I get why you picked him.
You want to know why I picked LA Knight over Swerve, though?
Hmm.
Okay, so Swerve, he got released from WWE and had to go break out in AEW. LA Knight broke out not only in WWE, but broke out in spite of Vince and kept his job. So it was even harder to break out from Vince, who hated you, and you're still with that same company. And there's no question in my mind that if LA Knight would have got released too, he'd be a big star in AEW as well. Maybe not to the degree of Swerve, but he would be a big star. Like, he would be over. He'd be like acclaimed over. So him breaking out in that same company that tried to hold him down is a big fucking deal to me.
I would say that almost works more in my favor because at least they liked him enough and he was big enough and popular enough to keep him. So here's that too. But,
well, I don't know. I promise you Vince wanted to get rid of them. He wanted to get rid of them. But yeah, you can't go wrong with either of those two picks for sure. All right. Next up, we've got Stable of the Year. This is one of our new ones. Now, this graphic is going to be hard to see because I had to fit so many goddamn people on it. But I went House of Black, and that includes Julia, by the way. Obviously, she's part of the stable. So I've got Brody King, Malachi Black, Julia Hart, and Buddy Matthews. And Ryan picked BCC, John Moxley, Claudio, Wheeler Yuta, and Danielson.
they've just done so much. Like, how do you not pick them? Just like as far as being a dominant stable, as far as the belts that they've held, it's hard because even their weakest member, Yuta, is pure champion. Like he's, I think I understand House of Black, I understand the pick, but I don't know, man. You look at what Claudio's done, Ring of Honor World Champion, Moxley was champion, Intercontinental Champion, and then I believe he even had World Championship in the same evaluation period, right? So it's hard to say that it's not BCC, but because House of Black has obviously been Trios champion, but I think it's Brody and I think the combination is Brody and Black that are the current PWG tag team champions too. Obviously PWG hasn't been running events because the guy that owns it has been dealing with some personal stuff, but aside from that, like they haven't had any, no singles championships or anything like that. So I felt like the clear better stable there was BCC, but
all right, so when I say stable, we're talking about I'm more them together type deal, and them having the trios titles, that's a stable title. They haven't had that in BCC. I get what you're saying. The individual awards are insane in BCC, but those are individual awards. So like every time that they've actually teamed up though, they've not gotten a lot of wins as an actual team, whereas House of Black has. And then Julia Hart has the singles title at the end of the year as well, which also helps. So that went into my thing. Like they both cross promote with their same stable, which is amazing. I love that. So it was definitely between these two, don't get me wrong. Maybe a New Japan stable possibly, but like even that, it's like us that watch this on a weekly basis, it would be hard for a New Japan stable to get to the level of these guys that are on TV twice every week.
Yeah. I think part of that is that I look at stables like New Japan looks at stables, where they aren't necessarily doing shit together all the time, but when they need to do shit together, they're all.
Oh, BCC is
together.
by far the closest to a New Japan stable that we have in America for sure.
Yeah, and apparently they're adding Marina Shafir, so there you go.
Are they really?
Yeah, so she's supposed to be wrestling somewhere in Japan upcoming, and Moxley has basically already said like, yeah, she's going to be doing it representing BCC. So there you go.
That'd be crazy. All right, let's move on to the best gimmick of the year. This is also the first time we've posted this one. First year doing this. I gave it to Timeless Tony Storm, and Ryan gave it to the entire stable of Bullet Club Gold.
I did. I get yours. I get why.
There's no questions on mine. No one would be like, why is Timeless Tony Storm the best gimmick of the year? She's easily the best gimmick of the year to me.
I think the thing with Tony's is that it's somebody that was already a world champion. So the gimmick, it's
Don't you
funny.
think that makes the gimmick change and how over it is even more impressive? Because technically you didn't really need to do it.
No, not really, because it's somebody that they already had at the top of the card, and she's very good at it. But I feel like with the Bullet Club Gold thing, to me, I consider that one the best because it elevated people that people were kind of like on. When you look at the Guns, you look at Juice Robinson, you look at Jay White's direction post New Japan, stuff like that. It's like, well, what are they gonna do with them? And having the Bullet Club Gold spin-off thing really elevated all four of those guys. Jay White was obviously already pretty high, but Juice at first, people were just like, oh, okay, like it's cool, like Juice is there, whatever. But being in that group and that whole dynamic and their gimmick together has worked out so well that I feel like everybody was kind of down on it at first. It was like, oh, it's like a fucking NWO Wolfpack kind of thing, but not really, and not whatever. It's people that, well, they bring in the Guns, nobody really cares about the Guns, but the way that it elevated everybody involved and their interplay with each other, I feel like it puts it ahead for me. But I am very entertained by the Tony Storm one too, and I think this
I don't
was really
view
fun.
the Bullet Club Gold really as a gimmick. It's not. I mean, it's something. If that's the case, then Bullet Club would just win every year because it's the same gimmick as the other Bullet Clubs. Really, the thing is I was one of the people that wanted the Guns in the Bullet Club Gold because it made sense just from a name standpoint. Let alone like they were already getting better on the tag team scene. I was like, hey man, I'm the one that actually picked them to beat FTR when nobody thought they were going to beat FTR. I was like, hey, give them the titles, and everybody fucking hated them online for whatever reason. And they got them, and then slowly everybody's like, oh man, they're actually pretty good. Yeah, no shit, they've been good. You just haven't really noticed it, because you don't watch Dark and Dark Elevation. Anyway, Tony Storm though, we're talking about elevating. We're not talking about elevating on a best gimmick of the year. At least that's not what I'm using the award for. But even in that case, Mariah May slides in right there, who just won your breakout of the year. Like, let's go, bro. Let's go. We're not elevating Mariah May, are we not?
She's not really part of Tony Storm's gimmick.
She's literally in every fucking Tony Storm clip. If Tony Storm was not there, Mariah May wouldn't just magically be in that slot. So you can't say that she's not elevating Mariah May to some degree. Luther, who wasn't doing anything, we're not saying she's not elevating Luther. He's getting TV time.
I think you can make the case better for Luther than you can for Brian May.
There's no way best gimmick doesn't go to Tony Storm in my eyes. Like, it's easily the most entertaining new thing on TV right now. I would say the MJF face turn gimmick could have been up there as well, because him and Adam Cole stuff was hilarious too. Really well done.
That was my other consideration, was Better Than You Baby was up there. But
all right, next up we've got best debut and / return rather. Best debut / return.
why are these all out of order from the way that you have them on the fucking note, man?
Because I put them in order what I thought would be
And reorder them on the note. All right.
I have the list on my thing. I'm just going through the list. I put them in order from what I wanted from like if I was doing an actual award show. I wanted to end it with the match of the year and the wrestlers of the year because those were the most important awards technically.
Yeah,
So
but I don't have a copy of what you're looking at, so I got to keep fucking looking through what I picked on the messed up out of order one. Anyway, go ahead.
Best debut / return of the year. I gave it to Mercedes Moné in Wrestle Kingdom. 17. And Ryan gave it to Adam Copeland
I did.
for, was it Full Gear, right?
Wrestle Dream.
Wrestle Dream?
Yeah, you came back at Wrestle Dream. Pretty sure.
You're sure? All right, Wrestle Dream.
It
Yeah, you're
was
probably
Wrestle
right. Wrestle Dream.
Yeah.
That sounds right, actually. All right, so yeah, Seattle, because I made the joke that it was the same place that he came back when he came back to the Royal Rumble, was in Seattle for WWE. All right, so yeah, so I gave it to Mercedes and Ryan gave it to Adam Copeland. We've given it to Adam Copeland before for the Royal Rumble thing.
Yeah. 2020, yeah.
Yeah, so that was interesting. So he's two-time Monster Award debut return of the year for one of us.
Yeah.
Or both of us, or what? Well, I think I gave it. Did we both give it to him that year or no?
Yeah, we both gave it to him.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right.
I gave it to him because everyone was kind of not really sure if that's what was going to happen. It was actually a surprise, and it was a very big pop. I thought that the way that they did his promo and like the video package before he came out was really cool. Him coming out against Christian was cool. Yeah, I thought for sure you were gonna pick fucking Punk going back to WWE, and then I was like, he probably doesn't want to have to explain himself on the hypocrisy of Punk going back to WWE.
I've already explained that it's a hypocrisy. Like, why would I like that? That's not the best return debut.
Yeah.
That's terrible. It's stupid.
Yeah. No, I like this not just from a presentation point of view and from it being cool and the pop and everything like that, but also just from a, again, sort of like we talked about today on the actual show that we recorded earlier. There's a lot of interesting things to say about it from a business point of view of AEW's legitimacy in being able to sign someone like that I feel like kind of puts it over. But you could make the same argument for New Japan and getting Mercedes too. So.
I think that statement was already made with Moxley, Punk, and Jericho before that. So I get what you're saying, but the only thing that I would say about the Copeland one was, like, he seemed like a WWE lifer compared to those three guys, for sure. So, like, that could open up the door for, like, a Rollins or something that everybody's like, oh, no, he's Captain WWE. Well, I mean, if Copeland can do it, then really anybody can. So I understand it from that standpoint, but I think they were already legitimized as far as who they could get over there. As far as New Japan goes, though, her opening the door for any woman that doesn't feel like they can do anything else except for WWE, she just broke everything open for them as soon as she showed up at fucking Wrestle Kingdom. Not to mention, the reason I like the Copeland and the Mercedes picks over someone like a Punk is when Punk debuted, yeah, it was more shocking because the way that they set it up, literally no one thought it was going to happen. But he didn't do anything. He just came out and stood at the fucking stage. The one that did the most shit was Rollins about how pissed off he got. Copeland came in and fucking speared people. Mercedes came in and did her fucking new move to Kyrie. Like, they actually did stuff. Yeah. So it wasn't just them coming out and then pointing at the ring or whatever and then fucking bouncing like it was a video game.
And cheer for me. Yeah,
so no, that Punk was never in consideration for me, honestly. It was definitely these two for me as well. But I gave it to Mercedes because I think Mercedes thing was a lot bigger because there's a lot of people when she left, quote unquote left or got fired or whatever, quit, that she was just gonna tuck her tail between her legs and come back and come right back. And that's what everybody thought. And it didn't happen. And then that, I think her showing up at Wrestle Kingdom actually helped propel Trinity to be like, you know what, I don't need to go back either. I'll just go to fucking TNA instead. And then she shows up in TNA. So I think the bigger debut return was Mercedes, but yeah, I have zero issue with Copeland being on that list for sure. He was definitely my number 2 pick. Hell, I think I would pick Trinity over CM Punk at this point. Her debut in fucking TNA was awesome too.
Yeah.
Not built off of hypocrisy.
You good?
All right, so let's go to most improved in the women's ranks over here. Here we go. Now this one was when you guys see who we picked on this one, it's gonna be like you'll be like, oh yeah, both of those make a lot of sense. And it's crazy now looking at it right now because they're together. It is Sky Blue for me and Julia Hart for Ryan, most improved of the year. I I don't even know there's really much to say about this. Like, I think these are pretty no-brainers, honestly. This is definitely one we could coin flip it if we were giving out physical awards. We could coin flip this, and I'd be okay with either one for sure.
Yeah, I feel the same. When we talk about improvement, not just with in-ring work, but also character work, I feel like both of them are very easy arguments.
Yeah, because when you're saying most improved, you're talking about from the year prior. So
Right,
where they were the year prior to where they are a year now, like, I understand that Sky Blue is not as good on the mic as a Julia Hart is, but from where she was the year before, yes, insane.
Yep.
Yeah, these two are pretty no-brainers. All right, we got one more before we take a break here, and so I can do the final 10. The last one, oh no, I got two more. My bad. I got it. Most improved in the men's, and then the show stealer of the year. So most improved of the men's. Here we go. We've got I've got Yoda, not taking into account the loss this year because that doesn't count because that happened in January of 2024. I've got Yoda, and Ryan liked to troll us all with this bullshit pick of Dominic
not a
Mysterio.
bullshit pick.
There's no way Dominic. Dude, if we were giving out physical awards, I would fight you to the death to give this to Yoda instead of Dominic Mysterio.
Okay, make your argument for Yoda being more improved aside from having a different like presentation and gimmick, like wrestling wise. How is
You don't
he
think he's more improved wrestling wise? You think Dominic is more improved wrestling wise?
From where he was a year ago? Absolutely.
Oh my god, he still sucks.
No, he doesn't.
Yes, he does. He's garbage.
He's not a bad wrestler.
He's trash.
He's not a bad wrestler.
He is a bad wrestler. He is a bad wrestler. All those North American fucking matches he had on NXT were trash, dude.
His character work has gotten like way better. His promos have gotten way better. His in-ring work has gotten
His
way better.
promos, you mean where he has to stop every 2 seconds?
Yes, but that's good.
No,
he
it's
has
not
to do
good.
that because
That's not good.
because
Where they're
crowd
pumping in
hates it.
noise, that's good to you?
They don't always do that.
They did a lot of the year. Yes, they did.
They do sometimes. But no, just like thinking about, like, obviously he's been in Judgment Day for more than the year, but what he was doing in Judgment Day last year, he wasn't having competitive matches or anything like that. Like and his matches were either short with interference or they were bullshit, or he just wasn't very good. And I remember the conversation we were having last year is like, why is Logan Paul coming in and automatically so much better than Dominic Mysterio, whose dad is fucking Rey Mysterio? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Not that Rey
I would
Mysterio had time to train his kid anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not blaming that, but I get what you're saying. Like, it was weird, yes. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and say, you can't sit here and tell me that he's closer to Logan Paul this year.
I think he is, yeah.
Oh my god, what is that? I would fight you to the death to send this physical award out, dude. There's no way I'm giving this shit to Dominic Mysterio. None.
Okay. I mean, you could be wrong, but like,
This is the one that we are most separated on for sure. There's no way. No way I'm
you
giving it
have to
Dominic.
remember last year, before all the Judgment Day shit, what was he doing? He was in like a weird feud with like Veer. You remember that? And then he had the shit with his dad where they had their little conflict or whatever, but his character work wasn't very good during that. His wrestling definitely wasn't very good during that. So I think when we look at where he is today, character work, promo work, crowd reaction, presentation in general, like actually having a fucking character, and then his in-ring work too. Yeah, I think he's the most improved.
Yes, but he didn't join the Judgment Day until 2022, which was the year before last.
I understand, but his role in the Judgment Day and like his character work during it is improved a lot over the year.
They don't do anything, dude. It's like the NWO. They come out there, they have their little stupid tag match like Teddy Long put together, and it never ends in a fucking actual ending where there's a winner and a loser. He hasn't won any of the tag titles that they had. It was Damian Priest and fucking Finn Balor. Like, no, he's not most improved. Most improved at what? Getting his ass kicked?
He was a goddamn NXT North American champion.
Yeah, that
Put
means
some respect
something.
on his name.
That means something.
It does.
In the worst North American in the worst North American title matches you've ever seen. Yes, sure he was. Sure.
That's not true.
Sure.
That's not true.
And we've also said that he shouldn't have won over fucking Dragon Lee in the first place. So I don't know how you're using that to his advantage to be
I did
most
say
improved.
that, but that doesn't mean that he's not the most improved.
They just gave it to him so he would have a fucking title because they didn't want to go in main roster title because they knew he sucked when he was with Judgment Day when they wanted all of them to have titles. That's not a reason to fucking say he's most improved. That's
I'm
terrible.
not saying he's most improved because of that, but
You
what
just
I'm
try to
saying
use
is-
it as one of the reasons, though.
I'm saying that he clearly has like gotten a lot further in his in-ring ability and his presentation.
I disagree with that.
and
No,
all
he
that, and
hasn't.
was-
They're the same shitty matches that he had before.
I don't think that's true.
It's definitely true. All right, so that is probably our only huge disagreement, I think, on this whole fucking list. But let's get to our last award of this first half. Like egregious awards that I would fucking fight you over the death to send out. I'm not paying money for a physical award to send it to fucking Dominic Mysterio. It's not happening.
I'll do it. I'll do it out of my own pocket.
And finally, for this first half, we've got Show Stealer of the Year in 2023. This one was pretty fucking easy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't.
We're
spend
giving
any
it
time on
to Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland. Number 2, the Texas Death Match at Full Gear was fucking outrageous. It was not the main event, therefore, but it was the only thing that people were talking about after the show was over. It was the Show Stealer of the Year, and I don't think it was that close.
Yeah, I mean, there were other good matches on throughout the year that were like you could probably make the argument that the I don't know why the fuck I just completely blanked on it. I had it in my head. Damn. I literally had it in my head and just completely lost it. We'll come back to it. But no, I mean, this one was pretty far and away like up there. The fucking triple threat match with was it Gunther, McIntyre, and Sheamus? I feel like that one you could make the argument for. Also stealing the show, because a lot of people were talking about that one afterward too. I don't know why that just like completely escaped me all of a sudden. But yeah, I think this one pretty clearly passes that one, even in terms of stealing the show. But I thought that match was also very good for its place on the card, not being a main event.
Yeah, that one would probably be up there with number 2, because that one was, I mean, technically Rhea and Charlotte could be up there as well, because they weren't the main event of night 1 either. It was the tag match between the Usos, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn. But there are things like recency bias that are involved in these type of awards as well. But that match was just nuts, dude. There's no way. Like, you had with how much stuff was on Full Gear that ended up being really fucking good. And then for that match to be the one that literally everyone was talking about afterwards, there's a difference between those two matches that we just mentioned for the 2 nights of WrestleMania coming out on shitty WrestleManias, on a shitty WrestleMania. We're like, okay, yeah, you were the show stealer technically, but what did you steal the show from? It was a lot of other trash. They stole the show from a lot of other good matches.
Yeah.
And everybody came out talking about that. So I think that's why I gave them the nod over.
Sure. I mean, the triple threat was also at WrestleMania, though.
Yeah, I understand that. It was night 2. I'm aware. And night 1 was Charlotte and Rhea. But all I'm saying is, what did they steal the show from? Garbage. Roman and Cody for fucking 45 minutes of nothing. That's what they showed. They didn't steal the show. I mean, they stole the show as far as like it was the best match and it wasn't the main event, sure. But it's not the same way as Full Gear between Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland stole the show. When you have another 1 or 2 5-star matches on that same show, and then this is what everybody's talking about, that's stealing the show.
Right, but if you think about even the Charlotte and Rhea one, that they only had 2 matches after that, right? It was obviously the tag match between Owens and Zayn and the Usos. And I don't even remember what the interim match was. So Pat McAfee was in it, but I don't remember what he was doing. So yeah, like you could kind of say the same thing about that one too. But no, I thought that Swerve and Hangman very clearly was the pick for this one.
All right, that's going to do it for our first half. We're going to take this short little break, come back on the other side, and do our final 10 Monster Awards for 2023. Hey, remember back in '93 when Ryan thought Shockmaster was going to be a future world champion?
The modern day wrestling god. What?
And that's why, Jack, you're so smart.
Now back to Jack and Ryan on the Monster Cast. Hello everybody and welcome to the second half of the Monster Awards 5th annual edition. 2023 awards are being given out here. We did the first 10, now let's do this second half. Let's start with the tag team of the year in the women's ranks.
Yeah.
I gave it to MK Ultra and Ryan gave it to no one, so therefore Masha Slamovich and Killer Kelly from Impact, congratulations. This would have been an easy physical award to give out. They are easily the tag team of the year in the women's ranks to me because they were like the only one that were together long enough and held gold at the same time to even be considered. The only other team that I could even think of would have been Katana, Chance, and Kaden Carter in WWE, but they just got the titles at the end of the year or whatever, so.
Yeah. Fire and Dawn for like the 1 month they were together. I said the same thing last year. The division is so bad that it's not even worth me picking one because who are you better than? Like there's no division to be on top of, not really. So until, you know, a lot of things change with the women's tag team wrestling, I'm gonna keep saying the same thing, which is that nobody wins this award from me because the division is shit. So.
All right, so congratulations, Masha Slamovich and Killer Kelly, MK Ultra. Next up,
and you know,
got...
I even mentioned Slamovich earlier as, you know, somebody that I was considering for Indie Star until I found out they were signed for TNA. So it's not anything against them personally. It's just tag team women's wrestling is not promoted or booked, or there's no storylines for it. It just.
I mean, at this point, why don't we just make a tag team, one set of women's tag titles and defend it against all promotions? It'll be the one Forbidden Door title. Yeah. Like, just have them. There's one title in the entire world for women's tag teams.
Yeah.
Be awesome. Speaking of tag team wrestling, tag team of the year on the men's side. Hey, now we're starting to get into stuff that we agree on.
Hey.
FTR won this year again. I believe they won last year as well.
They did.
This was.
Who else is there? Honestly,
was this an easy decision for you?
Yeah, I felt like it was pretty easy. Just the run that they had was so dominant. You know, obviously they lost all the belts, but they've been consistently the best performers in the tag team division. Their matches against Bullet Club Gold obviously were so good. I don't think anybody is outperforming them with in-ring work in the tag division. And then just in kayfabe, like they were so dominant. They were they've been at the top of the division for a while, and I can't think of anybody else off the top of my head that I would even have considered as a second place, really, that isn't very clearly outmatched by FTR in what they've done. So,
all right. Next up, we've got pay-per-view of the year. I gave it to All In London at Wembley Stadium, and Ryan gave it to Forbidden Door 2.
Yeah, I'm biased though because I went. So it's always hard to say that one that you went to wasn't the best because you experienced certain things about it that maybe weren't necessarily on television and stuff. Or didn't come across on television the same way. And I think that's last year I also picked Forbidden Door, but I think you did too. So I don't know that argument really works there, but yeah, I felt like the card up to down was really good. Every match was good. You know, even as much as people shit on, you know, you had Sonata come in and wrestle Jungle Boy, like, it's still a good match. And I had a lot of fun while I was there. So there you go.
I went All In London because why not, dude? Biggest pay-per-view of all time, with accurate numbers. So that was paid attendance. Wembley Stadium, when it was announced, everybody was like, huh? How? And then it happened, and then it was like, what the fuck?
Wembley Arena or whatever the other one is. It's like, oh, he fucked up. He said stadium. But no, he didn't fuck up. He meant what he said.
it did so well that they're doing it again this year. So like that's a big deal, and I don't know if they're going to sell out again like that,
They've already sold
unless they
like 40,000.
Yeah, it's insane, right? That was a good start for how early they did the tickets, but I need them to lower them ticket prices if they think they want to get those same people back that maybe just went just because it was at Wembley. Now they don't feel like they need to go again. You know what I'm saying?
If I gotta fly to England, bro, those tickets can't be that much. Like you gotta bring them down a little bit if I'm gonna have to pay for international flights. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, that was insane to me. Like just the
Well, I say that, but I flew to Canada, I guess. So whatever.
just the way it looked on TV was just insane, dude. Insane.
Yeah.
So
definitely
yeah,
had a good
I gave it to
presentation.
All in London for sure. We had the Young Bucks FTR match. You had Punk and Samoa Joe, which was good. We had the main event between Cole and MJF, and then of course they had the tag team match on the pre-show as well. Like there was a lot of good shit on that
Hook and
show.
Jack Perry. It was good. People won't remember the glass spot or whatever, but it was a good match.
All right. Anyway,
It was.
yeah, let's not go too far. Not go too
It
far.
was a good match. It was
All right. Next
predictable.
up, we got the "Oh Me My Goodness" moment of the year, named after my late grandmother. Here we go. "Oh Me My Goodness" moment of the year this year was when Hangman Adam Page drank and then spit Swerve's blood in the air, and the crowd went rabid like it was the ECW crowd. It was fucking insane.
I picked that one too because there were two things in wrestling all year where I literally stood up and was like, "What the fuck?" That was one. The other one was Kenny Omega kicking out of the One-Winged Angel at 1. But again, I was there, so I don't know that my reaction to it would have been the same at home. But I had that reaction at home watching the fucking Hangman spot, so I was like, I gotta pick that one.
Yeah, a lot harder to have that reaction at home when you're by yourself, you're just chilling on the
Yeah.
couch or whatever. Like if they can make you stand up out of your fucking thing at the house,
Yeah.
that's a little, I mean, you're more inclined to stand up at the actual show, obviously.
I was laying in bed watching that shit on my laptop, and I fucking sat up and stood up and picked up the laptop. Oh my fucking god!
Yeah,
Oh,
it was
this
a
match
pretty,
made me
it was a
so
pretty easy one for me. It was
Jesus
a pretty easy
Christ.
one for me. That just the reaction to the fans when he did it too, and then got on the turnbuckle, like they went fucking nuts, dude. It was literally a flashback to ECW for me.
My only thing is, I wish the camera had panned up a little bit earlier, to catch the whole, because they caught his head going up, and they caught the mist as it goes. But if they had him in full frame before he did it, I feel like that would have been a slightly better shot.
Yeah,
But it
like
was
the
still-
picture that's going around, like if they would have had that angle instead. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But no, I was like, oh my fucking god, dude.
Yeah, like the picture I'm
That's
using for
awesome.
the graphic right now actually would have been a sick shot.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we've got Rivalry of the Year. We have agreed on this. So John Moxley was involved on both of them. I gave it to John Moxley and Adam Page, and Ryan gave it to John Moxley and Orange Cassidy. Which is going to shock people when Moxley is not our Wrestler of the Year later.
Yeah, right.
He was involved in the 2 best rivalries of the year.
Yeah, I felt like it was such a defining rivalry for what the Intercontinental title is, and they wanted it to be. Yeah, that's what I meant. International. You know, there's so many fucking names. I thought that the story that they told, it would have been a little bit better if they had Cassidy go over in their first match. But then after they didn't, the story that they told of Cassidy kind of being like super despondent the first time he sees Moxley with the belt, like he's all broken up about it. They build back up to that rematch, and then he wins. I felt like that was like a good culmination of the story, and also even the injury that Moxley had in the Phoenix match, I felt like told the story really well too. It obviously wasn't intentional, but it ended up telling the story really good because you have Cassidy go out there for 30-something matches straight and not lose because he got injured even though he was banged up the whole time. Moxley, I think it was on his like 3rd defense, gets injured, has to call an audible, loses. Now obviously in kayfabe, like you know, we're not calling it an audible or whatever, but it's like, you know, things can happen when you're against top talent like that and defending the belt, where you just get caught and you lose. And it sort of solidified Orange's run as something special that even Moxley couldn't match it. and then they wrestle again, and now Cassidy goes over. I thought it was like a very, very well told rivalry. It was like a coherent story that they were able to make the adjustments for the injuries and stuff that they needed to. And in retrospect, even though I feel like Cassidy winning that first match against Moxley was probably the better call at the time, because of the things that happened afterward, I actually ended up liking it more that he lost. So there you go.
All right. I went with Paige because that was the shit with Renee at the same time, going back and forth, how Moxley knocked him out, but then Hangman knocked him out, and then they went at it again, and like they just would not leave each other alone, and all the matches were just like fucking, hey, before the bell even rings, we're just gonna beat the shit out of each other, beating the shit out of each other in the arenas throughout the week. Like as soon as they see each other, they just start fucking fighting type deal. Like it wasn't like, hey, we're gonna act like this was a super personal rivalry, and then as soon as we get in the ring, we're gonna tie up. No, like no, fuck no. So that rivalry was insane. They both got wins in it, so that helped too, obviously. Yeah, that rivalry was top notch for me. And then it kind of is almost like what they're kind of doing right now between Hangman and Swerve. Like if they would have had this Hangman Swerve rematch that they're kind of building to within 2023 as well, before we got out, dude, that might have won rivalry of the year for me. Might have been Hangman and Swerve.
I almost thought about putting Adam Cole and MJF in here, because if you look back at everything that happened with the understanding that Cole was against him the whole time, that's a pretty sick rivalry. So
yeah, like if the payoff match happened in 2023, it's going to be hard for that one to win this year too, because if it pays off early on in the year instead, and it's not a whole year thing on top of the year before, then something clearly can come along and, you know, beat that or whatever, because the whole rivalry would take place within the year that we're doing it. So that's the only bad part about when that rivalry took place. But the rivalry is so long, if you go back to, like you said, if you go back to when it began, like it's a 4-hour fucking video on YouTube because of all the shit they've done. And if you knew that he was against him the entire time, man, if that fucking blow-off match would have had enough time to happen in 2023 too, holy shit. Which it might have if he didn't break his ankle, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, and
it
they
could have
start
happened
with
at World's End. He could have debuted as the Devil and been the one to take it off of him instead of Samoa Joe. And then that would have been number one easily.
Go all the way back to like the 30-minute time limit draw that started everything. And then you start the rivalry from there with the understanding the whole time that Cole's fucking him. And I think there's a good case for that.
They had the all-in match, the all-in main event, obviously, was insane. Yeah, that would have been crazy, dude. Yeah, because if he would have not broke his ankle in 3 places, I'm pretty sure he was going to be the one taking it off of MJF at World's End, which would have been nuts.
I think if that had happened, I think that would have been clearly the rivalry of the year.
All right, next up we've got the tag match of the year.
Oh, and this one was. Oh,
we got this one. We gave this one the same as well. Collision, FTR versus the Bullet Club Gold, Jay White and Juice Robinson, 2 out of 3 falls match.
Yeah, and the funny thing is the other one that I considered putting in there was their first match. So the single fall match where they won the eliminator match or whatever, because that was also really good, and that's what set up the 2 out of 3 falls match later. But yeah, then that 2 out of 3 falls match was fucking crazy.
Insane.
I just
on TV they got, what was it, like a 50-minute match or some shit on a 2-hour show.
It was long.
Yeah,
I remember
crazy.
I think I even texted you after the first match, because the first match was like 25 or 30 minutes or something. And then they announced the 2 out of 3 falls. I was like, God damn, this one was just 20 to 25 minutes. What are they going to do? Like, have them wrestle for an hour straight? And they literally did that. I was like, okay, cool. Sick. Let's go.
I mean, that's a match that everybody was definitely talking about for a couple weeks afterwards. And I don't think it was really any tag match that
came close.
Yeah, it came close. Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like, was there? I don't think so. Nothing that it couldn't be if they're not jumping out as much as that one did. As soon as I thought about it, I was like, no, there's no way. Nothing beat this one.
Yeah. I just nothing I can think of offhand. Not a 2-man anyway. So yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Because there
I guess
was
technically
like
we could add in trios matches too, because they're technically tag matches.
Yeah, that's true.
which means that the fucking 7 series thing between fucking that triangle and the Elite would have been candidates as well.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing else really.
I still don't think those matches. I don't know, that match was not supposed to be. It was kind of like a match that everybody just thought was gonna be a regular ass match. I feel like, and then it ended. I think that's why it's held in such high regard, because it came out of nowhere. It literally came out of nowhere on a fucking Saturday Collision, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, that was insane.
Yeah,
But I still think I would give it to them. Honestly.
Nothing else really stands out off the top of my head where I'm like, yeah, definitely that one. So yeah, it's got to be.
All right.
I know somebody's gonna go in and say, "Oh, what about the Usos versus Kevin and Sam?" Please shut the fuck up. Okay.
Fuck no.
Just shut up. Just shut up.
The match of the year on the women's side. Also agreed with this one. This was for the SmackDown Women's Championship at WrestleMania. If you watched my Jack to the Drawing Board first ever episode, this is my number 1, 5 stars. Rhea Ripley winning the SmackDown's Women's Championship against Charlotte Flair on night 1 of WrestleMania. 5 stars. They beat the shit out of each other. It was awesome.
For the same reasons that we kind of talked about when we're talking
They have
about
great
Soap
chemistry.
Stealer. Yeah, it was just a surprisingly good match. Not surprising because either of the people in it are bad, but just for the spot that it was in on the card and what they ended up doing with the match. I think it surprised a lot of people that how stiff it was, how involved it was, how good the match was in general.
And also, it had a decent build to it, and it made sense. The storyline made sense. It wasn't something that they just tried to pull out of nowhere and be like, hey, let's put this together 2 weeks before WrestleMania because it's a women's match. It had a history behind it from a previous WrestleMania match, and it fucking made sense because it was basically the changing of the guard that Rhea was the new queen or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good match.
All right, match of the year on the men's side is next. And we both gave it to Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega at Wrestle Kingdom 17.
Yeah. This is when I went back and watched. I went back and watched this one, and I watched their Forbidden Door 2 match, because again, you just have that bias when you see it in person. And I think what took away from it for the Forbidden Door match for me was the Callis stuff. It's not that it was it completely ruined the match or anything. It didn't, but it was just I didn't need it. It didn't help the match for me personally. And rewatching it, I felt like the kick out at one spot on the One Winged Angel was really cool, but not enough to override everything else that had happened in the Wrestle Kingdom match. And also just the entire presentation of everything start to finish. Omega coming out to the interesting that he hadn't used in so long, him basically going back to New Japan for the first time and being like, look, Ospreay wasn't able to fill my fucking boots, so here I am, and I'm gonna beat him and show why I'm the best, and that's exactly what he did. It was just a very stiff, brutal match. Some of the table spots on the outside where he was smashing his head into the table, leaning up against the thing until it broke through. There was a lot of really good spots in that match that really stand out. And just bell to bell, I don't think anything else was better than it all year.
Yeah, it's crazy when you think about January 4th, the match happens and no one could touch it for the rest of the year.
Yeah,
and the only one that was close is them again at Forbidden Door.
Them again, right? Well, kind of. I mean, you could say that the Iron Man match with Danielson and MJF was close. You could say
I wouldn't say they're close. It's a significant step from this match, but then there's 4 or 5 matches that are all close together. If that match never happened, then we could have a debate.
Yeah.
But it would have to be a significant jump up to be up there with Ospreay Omega at Wrestle Kingdom 17.
Yeah, that's true. Another one that I'd considered just for I mean, I was 99% sure I was gonna put Omega Ospreay in this for one of the 2 matches, no matter what. But just going through the memory of the year and everything, I was like, Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr. having that match was a pretty big deal. There's a lot of built to that. But I think the problem with that one was it not being for the championship made it pretty obvious that Danielson was going to win going into it, and that took away from it a little bit. And then just the match itself, like, it was good. And that's hard for me to say as somebody that 3 years ago was like, I fucking hate Zack Sabre Jr. I hate watching his matches. And now it's like, you know, when he's not the only one dictating the pace of the match and actually works at somebody else's pace, they're actually very good. He's a very good wrestler. But yeah, the more I thought about it, I was like, you know, it's not even fucking close. It's really not even close. So I also considered having the best tag match as the best match. Because I thought that was really good. So I even thought about having that for both. But at the end of the day, it doesn't compare.
Well, you don't really have to put that, like, I don't need to say best singles because you could have triple threats and stuff, but that's why I gave tag match its own thing. So like tag match is encompassing for 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4. If we see that, like a really good Survivor Series match or a really good New Japan 4-on-4, possibly something like that. That's why that's there. If you have to tag, then it goes into that. If you don't have to tag, then it goes in the match of the year. Basically, is how I'm viewing it. But the other thing is, like, if you think about it, New Japan always has a leg up on the competition because their first show is on the 4th of January, and it's their WrestleMania. So they can literally dictate the pace of how this year's going to go out the gate. Like, is anyone going to touch this? And I felt like a lot of people already knew that Ospreay and Omega 17 was going to have like a really good shot to be the match of the year, even though it happened on January 4th. Now this year, the best match of the year so far is Okada Danielson.
Yeah.
However, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that someone can't beat that match as much as I did this match, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Nothing on the Wrestle Kingdom card stood out so much that I was like, that's a contender for match of the year. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Danielson Okada thing was a great match, but it wasn't.
If Okada and Danielson is match of the year next year when we do these awards, that means wrestling probably wasn't that great.
Yeah. And that's nothing against that.
I mean, it's a 5-star match, don't get me wrong. Yeah, it's a 5-star match or anything. I understand all that. But it's not out of the realm of possibility to catch that match and have a better match than them. That's what I'm saying.
And it did feel like that on the wrist.
It was better than their previous match, though. I will say that.
Yeah, but it's not, you know, that's gonna.
But Danielson got hurt in that match too,
right.
And I think Okada got hurt in that match too. So, or was hurt before the match, one or the other.
He's always hurt.
So I mean, that had something to do with it. But yeah, this one was obviously a lot better than that one. All right, let's move on to Wrestler of the Year. We got 2 more awards, the Wrestler of the Year awards. Wrestler of the Year on the women's side, Women's Wrestler of the Year, we both gave it to Athena.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is pretty easy. But Rhea Ripley won the match between her and Charlotte, but then everybody's like, oh yeah, she hasn't defended her title, which is true. Well, you can't be Wrestler of the Year if you're not wrestling. So Athena not only has been wrestling, but has also been killing it and was probably a contender for Gimmick of the Year, honestly, because of everything that she's done in Ring of Honor. She's had awesome matches against Willow, an awesome street fight against Kiera Hogan, an awesome match against Billy Starks. Like,
the stories that she's
2 matches actually
over
against
there,
Willow, I think, were really good.
She's been telling consistent stories. She's been having consistently good matches, and her alone being in Ring of Honor in the position that she's in has brought so much like legitimacy and credibility to the ROH women's division that they didn't have for a while, in a way that nobody else has really elevated their own division.
You know what she reminds me of, actually? Asuka a few years ago in NXT when she was unbeatable.
Yeah.
And then everybody thought Athena should have been the one to beat her, but Asuka beat her too, and then just left with the title or whatever. And then Athena eventually got it or whatever, instead of having Athena win it, or Ember Moon at the time.
Yeah.
He is basically the Asuka of Ring of Honor right now. Like, she is literally just winning every fucking match, but she's also killing it all on the mic and character work and stuff. She has the cool music, she has the cool ring gear and entrance gear and stuff. And she even had a stable for a short period of time with Billy Starks as the minion and shit like that. Like, dude, like, she's been killing it. She is one of the main reasons to go out of your way to watch Ring of Honor. It's literally her and Eddie Kingston, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and you know that match
on a consistent basis. I'm not saying there's not really good talent in Ring of Honor, but like to like make it a point to watch this show every week, it would be her and Eddie Kingston.
Yeah, like the matches she had with Willow at I think it was Death Before Dishonor, right? That was like really fucking good. The build to that was really good. Like, yeah, she's had a lot of standout programs with different people. The story obviously is at the end of it, she still wins, but I'm fine with that because who else is gonna carry that brand right now better than she's been doing?
Yeah, it was Death Before Dishonor. I give it 4.75 stars, and it was actually my number 2 highest rated women's match behind the Rhea Ripley Charlotte match at WrestleMania.
Yeah. She's just so consistently good. I didn't feel like this one was even close.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the final award of the 5th annual 2023 Monster Awards goes to the Wrestler of the Year on the men's side. Ryan gave it to Bryan Danielson.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave it to Will Ospreay. And there's a little bit of a disconnect here because me and him had actually talked about this. It's not that I don't agree with him or that he doesn't agree with me, but the original award was called MVP of the Year.
Right.
So Ryan chose Danielson because if you take Danielson out of AEW, think about how many things that we miss out on in AEW and how much it would diminish the overall year of wrestling in AEW. Whereas if you took Ospreay out, all those matches, he doesn't really help. He doesn't really help the impacts and the couple AEW spots that he had and stuff like that. So it's not really an MVP of one specific thing or one specific thing. So like a team, basically, like the company, like one company, because Ospreay was all over the place. Like I said earlier, he had the 5-star match with Speedball Mike Bailey on a TNA pay-per-view. He had a crazy fucking match with Omega at Forbidden Door 2 on AEW soil, basically. Then he had matches in New Japan. So it's a little different. So we changed it up to Wrestler of the Year. Now, Danielson still is obviously number 1. Like, he's still considered, like, he's still Wrestler of the Year. And, like, you can't say that he's not Wrestler of the Year still.
I think, so yeah, when it was MVP and I picked Danielson, it was for the reasons that you said. Also just because he elevated so many people on the way. So you had the 60-minute Iron Man match with MJF. You had the strap match with Ricky Starks. You had and obviously just the quality of matches too. You had like we were talking about earlier. You had the Zack Sabre Jr. match. And
you had the entire Continental Classic happen in the year as well.
Yep, the entire Continental Classic that he was in, and you know the stuff that he was doing, even stuff like Anarchy in the Arena when he was doing the 4-on-4 at Double or Nothing against the Elite, stuff like that. Like, there's stuff that he did throughout the year that really added to the product in a way that I feel like his absence would be noticeable. If you asked me if it was originally titled Wrestler of the Year and you said who had the best matches all year, I would say Ospreay for sure. But
the reason I also gave it to Ospreay is because he also won a lot of those matches. So he has the best match of the year with Omega, but then he also beat Omega in what we consider the second best match of the year later on at Forbidden Door 2, the show that you went to. He also beat Shingo Takagi and Chris Jericho in like fucking back-to-back nights or whatever the hell it was. And then he also beat Jay White this year, or last year, technically.
Rev Pro, right?
Yeah.
Was it Rev Pro? Yeah.
Like he was just on a run where he was beating, and he beat Okada as well, by the way, last year. So like he was beating and Tanahashi, I believe, as well. Like he had this run of names that were insane names that he beat them all. So that's why I gave, and not only did he beat them, but they were all like 4 stars and higher matches. Yeah. So that's why I gave him Wrestler of the Year.
I think even Meltzer's second highest match of the year, I don't even think we've mentioned it, but it was Ospreay's match against Naito during the G1. So, you know, when we're talking about like who had the best matches, I would agree that it's Ospreay. But the thing is, having the best matches is sort of like you can have the most points on your basketball team, but the most valuable person on the team, the person who would take away the most if you lost that member, might still be the guy who has like 20 less points than that dude, but has like 15 assists,
rebounds,
30 rebounds,
steals,
like
8 assists. Yes, right. Exactly. No, I agree with that.
That's how I look at Danielson. So, yeah.
So I mean, either way that we phrase it, Danielson is on there for sure.
Both make sense. But my second, or not second, I guess, but I guess third, because I knew we were already going to talk about Ospreay. My other pick for this was going to be Orange Cassidy. just everything that he did with the international title and legitimizing that, and the run that he was on, the work that he put in. Obviously, he was in my feud of the year too. And the more I thought about it, I was like, you know, you kind of, and I understand Cassidy's gimmick really helped with that storyline, but I don't think that if you'd put, I think that there are other people that you could have put in that same spot, and it would have told the same or similar story of just the guy like getting worn out, whatever. It helped it because it was like, oh well, he's got to start taking stuff seriously now, and I do feel like that added to the story. But with Ospreay or with Danielson, I don't think they're interchangeable with anybody else for the things that they were doing. So
yeah, the issue with the
kinda
Orange Cassidy thing is, yes, he wrestled a shit ton and he had a bunch of defenses, but a lot of those matches were 3.25, 3.5, 3.75 stars until he got to the bigger matches at the pay-per-views, and then they would be knocked out of the park. Whereas Danielson and Ospreay may have wrestled less, but all their matches were fucking bangers that everybody remembers. That's another reason.
Yep, I agree.
Alright, so that's going to do it for the Monster Awards 2023 5th annual. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments below if we got him right, if we got him wrong, who you want, or who you would pick as your 2023 year-end award winners for these categories. And we'll see you guys later. Deuces.